Hello and welcome to part 2 of our 9.3 unit circle notes video. In this video, I'm going to be going through the extension part of the 9.3 notes, where we go through and now apply what we talked about in that first set with our 45-45-90, our 30-60-90s, and extend those to the other parts of our right triangle. And then I am going to go through and just kind of help you get going on the homework, which is just filling in the unit circle. That's your homework for Monday night, is just completing this. So I'll help you go through and kind of develop that and get the first quadrant filled in, and then the different axis angles for that. So let's go ahead and just get started with extension, the first part, for a 45-45-90 triangle. So what we looked at in a 45-45-90 triangle is for this initial 45-degree angle, my coordinates here, we figured out were the square root of 2 over 2, comma, the square root of 2 over 2. That was the terminal point of that 45-degree angle. Now, if I reflected that over the y-axis, so that's that vertical axis right there, if I reflected that over, which would be putting it over here into quadrant 2, I would end up with something like this. Let it lock into place there. I end up with that angle right there. Now, when we do a reflection, the only thing that's going to change is the sign of one of my two coordinates. So in this case, if I'm reflecting it over the y-axis, I still have a height of the square root of 2 over 2. So my y value is still going to be the square root of 2 over 2. But my x value is now just going to flip signs. So the coordinate of this angle right here is negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, the square root of 2 over 2. Now, figuring out what angle that is takes some practice. Now, if we're halfway between 90 and 180, which in this case we could go through and label that if that helps. This is 0 degrees or 360. This is 90. This is 180. And this down here is 270. So we're halfway between 90 and 180. So in this case, or if you want to think of the other way, each of these little pieces of this puzzle, each of these slices that are created are 45 degrees. So 45, 90, 135 would be, 135 would be this angle right there. So the first one that we looked at, 45 degrees, is this angle. So the blue one, the second one that we've done here, is 135. Now, if I went through and reflected that angle over the x-axis, so I'm going to flip it vertically down into quadrant 3, that would end up being right about here. And again, I'm going to just drop this perpendicular right there. Now when I reflect it over the x-axis, that is going to keep my x value the same, because I'm not moving left or right at all. I'm flipping it down over the x-axis. Now it flips the y value of that coordinate. So from negative square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2, the blue point there, I'm just going to reflect that down. So my x value is still negative, because it's not moving left or right at all. But now my y value is also negative, because I'm reflecting it down, and now it's a negative x value, negative y value. Now, that terminal point is the angle from my initial side all the way around here to that part right there. And that angle is 45 degrees past 180, or it's halfway between 180 and 270, what ends up being 225, not 222, 225 degrees. Okay, so far so good, hopefully. Our last one, which we can either follow the prompt or look at it. Why isn't that letting me switch colors? Okay, that's weird. Well, I guess we're going to have to deal with the red for right now. That's unfortunate. Alright, so for this last one, reflecting it down into quadrant 4, which is continuing that reflection again now over the y-axis. Still not going to let me switch here, huh? Alright, bear with me for a second. I'm going to try and close the app and open it back up to see if that works. Sorry for the short delay. Huh. Well, that stinks. Anyway. So reflecting that one more time now over the y-axis again. So now we're going back over to the positive x value, negative y value. In this case, why are you not working now, too? Alright, let's close that completely. Sorry for the weirdness in the middle of this video. Notability is acting weird. Now I can do that. Now I can switch colors. Okay, cool. That's strange. Hopefully everyone saw that and is not just thinking I'm wackadoo. Let's change that to green because I wanted a different color. Beautiful. Okay, so now that we're good. Reflecting it over the x-axis from my original black one, or reflecting it over the y-axis from that previous one, the red one that I just went through, the 225. What we should see is that since my coordinates are the same, I'm looking at now a positive x value and a negative y value. And again, however you want to get to there, either take the red one and reflect it over the y-axis, which changes my x value from negative to positive, or if you want to get there directly from that first one we did there in black, my x value is now going to stay the same, but my y value becomes negative. That one, again, you've got a couple of different ways of looking at it, is going all the way around this way, so it's a pretty big one. It's either 45 degrees past 270, 45 degrees before 360, or halfway between 270 and 360. Either way, 315 is that angle. So that lets us, again, just from 45 degrees, we've gone through and bounced into all four corners, all four quadrants, and we now have terminal points for all four of those angles. So that'll be beneficial to us when we start getting into the actual unit circle down on your homework. Okay? So, for a 30, 60, 90, with a 30-degree angle in standard position, what we looked at before, our 30 degrees is square root of 3, square root of 3 over 2, comma, 1/2 for that original coordinate. So when we go through and do that, if we're going to go, well, I'm just going to follow the same general process. I'm probably going to go a little bit quicker just because that initial weirdness of going through and doing those reflections is a little bit strange. So now if I reflect this first, we'll go over the x-axis over there in quadrant 2. That's going to look something like this. Let's see, where do I usually go? A little bit higher than that. Ooh, let's be smart about this. Okay. Let's do all the drawing first, and we can get it nice and lined up. That looks about right. And then I'm going to use this and do a little cheating here to get it nice and lined up. Okay, and then we're going to go here, go straight vertical. And now we're going to go like this. Yep, that's good. Go ahead and erase that. I'm going to do green in this other corner here, so we'll just go ahead and go straight forward from that. Beautiful. Okay, so I just went ahead and drew all those pieces in right away. It'll be easier if you have a ruler or a straight edge. I probably could have done that myself. But it's not perfect. You know me, I just like to have it lined up nicely. So if I do this first reflection, so I'm going to do the blue one first. If I reflect that over the the y-axis, what happens is I'm not 30 degrees past 90. I'm actually, this is my 30-degree angle here, so I'm 30 degrees before 180. So this angle is 150. Right, because if I go through and relabel those same ones, this is 0/360, this is 90, 180, and then down there is 270. So my 30 degrees now is 30 degrees before 180, which is why that's 150. Same general thing. Why do you keep doing this? Okay, let's again minimize, open it back up. Nope, I'm really gonna have to close you all the way again. I'm so sorry about the technology issues. It's been fighting me all day. I can move again. I can change colors again. Okay. So again, when I reflect over the y-axis, that's going to change the x value sign, but not the y value. So now this is going to be a negative x, positive y for that terminal point right there. When I reflect it into quadrant 3, so when I reflect it down, now that's going to stay a negative x value and become a negative y value. So now this one, my 30 degrees is still created with the x-axis. That is 30 degrees past 180. So this angle here is 210. And again, we're going from, let's see, 30 degrees is right here. 150 is there. Oh, I did my colors wrong, didn't I? My red one, which is 210, is all the way here. Yeah, I did that wrong. That's all right. Let's switch that color right now because I'm me and I care. Even though I can't see the colors, I know when they're not the same one. I didn't catch it until now. Let's change those back to red so they match. That's better. Oh, they're all like that, aren't they here? Yup. Sorry, peoples. There we go. Now I'm aesthetically pleased. Cool. And then for the last one, down here in quadrant 4, this one has a positive x value, but a negative y value. So positive square root of 3 over 2, comma, negative 1/2 would be that terminal point. Now this angle, the 30 degrees, is still created with the x-axis. So that 30 degrees would be 30 degrees before 360. So that's why this one here is 330 degrees. And that is from my terminal side all the way around to right there. Okay. For the last one, for my 60 degree angle. Now let's go around and let's be smart about this. 0, 360, 90, 180, 270. Okay. So now this 60 degree angle, which is right just there to there, my coordinates were 1/2, comma, square root of 3 over 2. So if I start doing these reflections, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing I did before. I'm going to draw in all 4 of them just because it's easier for me to line it up right now all at the same time, because I'm bad at approximating where stuff should be. So that if I go like this, a nice vertical line, yep, just about there. So that means now my blue should be from there to my vertex, which is the origin, and my green one should be from there. I'm just trying to line it up with that. Good enough. No, not good enough. Perfect. Good. Okay, so again, when I go through and do these reflections, that's right there. This 60 degree angle is created still by the x-axis and my terminal side. So now I'm 60 degrees before 180. So in this case, this angle is 120. For my coordinates, once again, I'm going to be switching the sign of my x value. So now it's a negative 1, combine those together, negative 1/2 and a positive square root of 3 over 2, because my y value is not changing. So that's that terminal point there. For my red one down in quadrant 3, now I'm 60 degrees past 180. So again, my blue one, that's from there all the way around, that's the 120. My red one is 60 degrees past 180. So that one is 240 degrees. Terminal point, now it's going to be both negatives, negative x and negative y. So a negative 1/2, comma, negative 3 over 2. And then for the last one in green, now we are 60 degrees before 180, which would be all the way around, or sorry, 60 degrees before 360, so 300 degrees is that angle right there. And coordinate-wise, now it's back to a positive x value and a negative y value. And those, I mean, again, those match what the coordinates are for each of these 4 quadrants. In quadrant 1, which is this area up here, all of those have a positive x value and a positive y value. In quadrant 2, it's a positive x value, or sorry, a negative x value because we're going left, and a positive y because we're going up. Quadrant 3 has both negatives because it's left and down, negative, negative. Quadrant 4 in the bottom right is a positive x value because we're going right, but a negative x value because we're going down. So now that we have all of that really is all the hard work. Now that we know those, you're really just going to be matching these up with our unit circle. So this is what our unit circle looks like. I've provided both a blank copy for you, a partially filled copy for you attached to the back of these notes, and then, or I guess at least attached to the back of the key for the notes, and then one that is completely filled in and looking nice and presentable. Now, I've given you all of those. I do still want you to fill one out yourself, even though I've already given you that one that's already completed. So I do still want you to go through and do this for the first time because this is your homework. I'm not concerned right now with this part, identifying which of my trig functions are positive versus which ones are negative. That'll be in the next video that we'll do, that I'll probably put out tomorrow, or at least have scheduled for Thursday, when we have to actually start using the unit circle for those trig values. What I do want you to do in my unit circle is, in here, so the way this works, we'll just use blue. So the part here, there's basically 4 lines for each angle, with the exception of 0/360 here because we have those 2 different measurements. So the first line is the angle in degrees. That'll be the easy one. That's the one that we did everything for. So it's going to be 0 degrees, which is still 0 radians. That's that second line is my radian measure. So this one right below it, 360 if I'm considering myself to go all the way around the full rotation. And of course, like we talked about last week in 9.2, 2 pi is 1 full rotation in radians. And then the coordinates are those terminal points. So in this case, we didn't talk about 0 degrees, 90, 180, or 270. So what we're going to have to do for those is just utilize the fact that I know this is a unit circle. And in a unit circle, as the name implies, my radius is 1 unit. So all of the points on my circle are exactly 1 unit away from the origin. So in this case, 0 degrees, which is this point right here, is to the right 1 unit from the origin, so this coordinate would be 1, 0. Now if we go, let's go through and do all the other, what I call quadrant angles, are kind of those landmark angles, the axial angles. If we do the other ones, 90 degrees, I don't like that 9, that's okay. For 90 degrees, my radian measure, which we talked about on whatever day that was last week in 9.2, is pi over 2. And my coordinates are 0, 1. Because now, if it's where my radius is 1, that just has to be a height of 1 since I'm not moving left or right at all. So 0, 1. Over here, we've got 180 degrees, which again, half of a rotation, so half of 2 pi would just be pi. That's the radian measure. Coordinate-wise, I'm going to the left one and up or down 0. And then the last quadrantal angle, axial angle, 270 in degrees. This one would be 3 pi over 2 radians. And then coordinate-wise, 0, -1. So what you're going to have to do now for the rest of these, and again, I'll go through and do a couple with you. We'll go through and definitely have the first quadrant filled out. Those were the easy ones. Those are the ones we did in part 1 of the video. Or sorry, the first video. So for these ones, this is our 30-degree angle, 45-degree angle, and 60-degree angle. So for our 30-degree angle, we said that square root of 3 over 2, 1/2 was the coordinates. 45 was square root of 2 over 2 for both x and y. And for 60 degrees, that was 1/2, square root of 3 over 2. So what we still have to do is the radian measures. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this. What I would suggest is kind of just going through all of this right now, right away, and identifying what the radian measures are. Because it's easier if you think of it in slices. So you can kind of see we've got 2 different ways that we can slice up our circle. So we can slice it into 45-degree slices, which would be 8 pieces all the way around. Or we can slice it up into 30-degree sections, in which case there'd be 12 slices all the way around. So you can do it that way, where looking at my, let's just say 45-degree angles, this first one, 45, is halfway between 0 and 90, so it's going to be halfway between 0 and pi over 2. So if you did pi over 2 divided by 2, you'd end up with pi over 4. That's a 45-degree angle. So the rest of the way, so if going from 0 to 45 is pi over 4, this would be 2 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 2. Going all the way here would be 3 pi over 4, which is my radian measure. 3 pi over 4. And then if I continue again, all the way here would be 4 pi over 4, which reduces just pi. So that works. And then you just continue that all the way around my circle. If I go my next 45 degrees, I go to 5 pi over 4. And then this next 45-degree angle would be another pi over 4, so that's 6 pi over 4, which reduces to pi over 3, or 3 pi over 2. And then for the last one, right there, I end up with 7 pi over, ooh, I don't like that at all, 7 pi over 4. And then going that very last, 45, would be 8 pi over 4, which again reduces to pi over 2. So that's looking at it in terms of slices. The other thing you could do is use your conversion, because what we did in the extension here, we went through and did all of these angles that are here in degrees already. We've identified those. So what you could just do is use that conversion rate, that conversion factor of pi over 180 to go from your angle in degrees to your angle in radians. So if you did that here, 30 degrees times pi over 180 reduces to pi over 6. If you went to 60, 60 times 180, or times, sorry, you slow down, 60 times pi over 180 reduces to pi over 3. But you can also do the same thing with my 30-degree angles. Every 30 degrees that you go is another pi over 6. So my 30-degree angles, in 30-degree increments, this would be 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6. And then just reduce, right? Because 2 pi over 6 reduces to pi over 3. 3 pi over 6 reduces to pi over 2. This one would be, what would we just say? 3 pi over 2, or 3 pi over 6. So this would be 4 pi over 6, which reduces to 2 pi over 3. My next 30 degrees, which would be right here, would end up being 5 pi over 3, which does not reduce. And then 6 pi over 3, which, hey, 6 over 3 reduces to, or sorry, what? 6 pi over 6. This is supposed to be over 6. I'm sorry. 5 pi over 6. 6 pi over 6 reduces to just pi. So you can keep going that way. And again, each yellow part here is a sixth of my pi. So first one, 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6. And then reduce wherever you need to. So then if you continue going, I'll just highlight these for you. This would be, I'm not going to write it out for you. We're at 6 pi over 6 right now. This would be 7 pi over 6, which does not reduce. 8 pi over 6, which does reduce. 9 pi over 6, which reduces to 3 pi over 2. 10 pi over 6. 11 pi over 6. And then back to 12 pi over 6, which reduces just 2 pi. So you're going to go through now for all these other angles that we've been trying to figure out, and you're going to write out those, make sure you have all 4 of those pieces. So you're going to need your angle in radians, which we've done most of already. You'll need your angle in degrees, which is from that extension. So like if we want to do this next one in quadrant 2 here, our next one, which was from our 60-30, like our 60-degree angle triangle, this is 120 degrees here, and its coordinates were -1/2 square root of 3 over 2. So you just need to make sure for all of those points around my circle, you've got those 4 things. You've got your angle in radians, your angle in degrees, your x value, and your y value. So that right there, just completing that, which really from here on is just getting your radians for that bottom half of the circle, and then matching up your degrees and coordinates from the extension that we just finished earlier in the video, and just making sure that's all filled in. What we're going to be doing next, or I guess moving forward, I'm going to go through, I originally had planned on you guys just working on the puzzle for tomorrow, but I am going to do another quick little video after this that just kind of shows you how we use the unit circle so that you guys are able to do that puzzle, and then, or that maze is what we have planned for tomorrow, for Tuesday. And then Wednesday and Thursday are just practice days. So Wednesday will be 9.3 practice A, and then Thursday will be the 9.3 puzzle time. And that'll be it. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out, message me on Remind, send me an email, however you need to get a hold of me. If you want to go back through, obviously, and rewatch this video as many times as you need to, pause it, slow it down, do whatever, cycle through it a bunch of times, put it in slow motion so that you can understand the words that I'm saying. Do what you got to do. But if you need more help, if you've done that already, you've gone through and watched this a bunch of times and you're still just confused, reach out, let me know. We can try and schedule a time where we can do a Google Meet and we can kind of work through some problems face to face. You can ask me questions a little bit easier. If that doesn't work for you and you just don't have internet that supports that, I understand that. Mine sucks too. Then we can always just continue to kind of message back and forth or email back and forth, or I can kind of rewrite some other stuff to try and find a different way of explaining it. You just got to let me know. Now more than ever. I mean, you guys know I emphasized this when we were in school, that I can do a better job there reading whether or not you understand what you're doing, but now it's next to impossible unless you're sending me stuff, or unless you're reaching out. I don't know that you're struggling. I don't know that you're doing what you're doing correctly, or if you need some more assistance. So you guys more than ever need to take that responsibility and reach out and ask for help. Okay? All right. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.